Hey there. Let's talk about the religion of speed. Somewhere along the way, business started worshiping at the altar of urgency. Move fast and break things. If you're not first, you're last. Fail fast. You know what we never seem to question? Why we're in such a hurry in the first place. Now, this obsession with speed didn't come out of nowhere. It traces back to the early 1900s, when Frederick Taylor wrote his coined phrase, scientific management. He treated workers like stopwatches with legs. The faster you shoveled coal, the more efficient you were. No room for creativity, no room for humanity, and God help you if you got injured, because you were repetitively moving faster than any human should who's shoveling coal. Then Henry Ford came along with the assembly line and said, hey, let's make humans part of the machine. And so began the gospel of throughput and speed. But not everyone bought in forever. By the 1950s and 60s, a new voice emerged, Peter Drucker. He was the guy who coined the term knowledge worker. He was seeing something different and something that was really driving results. He dared to suggest that leadership wasn't about moving faster, it was about thinking better. That the real work of leaders was about vision, people, and culture. And you've likely heard this quote before. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. That was Drucker. But here's the catch. Even though Drucker laid the foundation, most organizations never fully left the factory floor. We upgraded the tech, but kept the conveyor belt mindset. We forgot that humans at all levels of a business or organization were knowledge workers in their own right, whether they were on an assembly line or not. That term, knowledge worker, as coined by Drucker, did a lot to shift how we think about leadership and productivity. But it also unintentionally reinforced a class divide. Brains at the top, hands at the bottom. Yikes. Drucker talked about knowledge workers as this new class of employees, people who think for a living. But today, that line's blurred, and for very good reason. The real-world definition, as I see it, is this. A knowledge worker is anyone who applies their ability to think, learn, adapt, and apply insight to their work. Whether they're designing a strategy, running a meeting, solving a systems issue, or figuring out how to fix a jammed conveyor belt. In other words, it's not about your title. It's not about your salary band or whether you work in an office or on a factory floor. It's about your capacity to bring thoughtfulness to the table, wherever your table is. We're all knowledge workers in our own right, and some of us just happen to lead teams. The value of modern work isn't just in output or throughput. It's in discernment, adaptability, and wise insight. Even the most routine-seeming jobs ask for real-time problem-solving, emotional regulation, and judgment. And let me say it out loud for the people in the back. A knowledge worker isn't defined by where they sit, but how they think. Whether you're leading a team or troubleshooting a production line, the world is asking for more than muscle and hustle. It's asking for insight, discernment, creativity, and presence. And if we keep treating ourselves and others like cogs, we'll keep the burnout blueprint humming, creating disengaged teams who never get to bring their real brilliance to work or home. And here's the kicker. Speed feels like progress. You send the email, you knock out the meeting, you respond to the Slack messages in 6 seconds flat. But here's the question. Was any of it important? Because here's the things that most leaders forget. Urgency is not a synonym for priority. Let's get real. First to market sounds sexy, but remember who beat Friendster? Or even what Friendster was? Remember who launched the first MP3 player? Hint, it wasn't Apple. Sometimes being first to market just means you got to the wrong destination faster. Look, I get it. You've probably been rewarded for moving fast. You got the promotion, closed the deal, made the numbers, and it really feels like it was the speed that created or does create the results, doesn't it? But it's much more complex than that if you really look at it. And now, you're just tired. The engine's overheating and slowing down, that feels terrifying. I get that. It felt terrifying to me too. What if everything falls apart? What if you lose your edge? What if people think you've gone soft or you're giving up in some way? Now here's the truth. You didn't get here by accident. You built something and it worked until it didn't. So you're not broken. You're just outgrowing the version of leadership that got you here. And that's not failure. That's evolution. Letting go of the burnout blueprint doesn't mean letting go of ambition. It means redefining success so it includes your well-being. So your team gets your best, not just your speed. You're evolving, and that's great news. And can we just talk about the hack obsession for a second? Why is everything a hack? We got productivity hacks, morning routine hacks, vacation hacks, life hacks. Here's another thing to consider about these hacks. Maybe, just wondering, we're hacking because we're doing too much of what we don't want to do and not nearly enough of what we know is ultimately important. We're trying to speed run a life that doesn't even feel like ours. And our hacks, they're the cough of a bigger symptom, not the cold itself. A symptom of a bigger problem, misaligned choices. And this is where your choices come in. You don't need more hacks. You need more alignment. If you've watched my video on the 2-question test for better decision making, you already have the tools. Here are the questions. Is this moving me toward the life I want? Is it aligned with what matters most right now? Or is this choice moving me away from what I say I want? I'll link to that video at the end just for you. And if you can't say yes to both of those questions, maybe the smartest move is not doing it at all. Real leadership doesn't happen in a frenzy. It happens when you pause long enough to notice what matters. Speed has a cost, and so do hacks. You deserve more than a sped up, hacked together version of your own life. So here's your challenge. Stop measuring your day by how fast you moved and how much you got done, and start measuring it by what actually mattered. If you want help building a leadership rhythm that doesn't break you or your team, grab my guide, Reclaim Your Life from the Brink of Burnout. It's bold, sciencey backed, and will help you slow down without losing your edge. You can download it in the description where I've linked it just for you. And of course, hit subscribe to get more great stuff on how to thrive in the 9 to 5 and beyond. Happy thriving.